Hey guys, you ready to let the dogs out?
What?
Do what? Let the dogs out. You know, like, who let the dogs out? Who?
Off the Hook, airing on offthehooksports.com. Your home for real news, real opinions, and what really matters about Tennessee athletics. Always available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, TuneIn, iHeart. Like, share, follow, subscribe. Always available wherever you find your favorite podcasts.
Good morning to you and yours on this Monday. We want you to hit that like button, the thumbs up button. We greatly appreciate it. Subscribe and share as well. Again, pound that like button. They tell me that's a big thing. Good morning, Brittany, to you. We've got a lot to get to. Of course, the coach, Chris Landry, will join us of LandryFootball.com. Also, we will look back on Tennessee's big win against Missouri, set a number of records, including most yards in school history. And Jalen Hyatt continues to score touchdowns, drops a couple of passes, but just luck is entrenched as the Blitnikoff winner. And Hendon Hooker didn't hurt his Heisman chances. And then as far as the rest of the college football landscape, because it matters, it truly matters for Tennessee and the college football playoff. They're going to need a little bit of help, not a lot. We will discuss. Good morning, Amanda LaFratta. How are you?
I'm doing well this morning, Dave. How are you?
I'm well. Raleigh said, "Did you get a haircut?" I did. I was in bad shape last week.
Oh, you did.
And I got a new electric razor too, because I'm going to blame it on the manufacturers, because I was getting razor burn. I'd never gotten razor burn in my life. So went back to the electric razor. What do you think? You seen any scuffle there? Am I doing okay?
No, looks good.
I appreciate that. And with the haircut, I asked the lady, as I always do. So is it getting any thinner? And because I'm very insecure about that. And she goes, no. And I was like, oh, good. And then she goes, but man, it's getting white. Oh, gosh. Almighty Jiminy.
At least you know she's honest.
She is honest. So
So
one
if she
day
ever does tell you it's getting thinner, then it really is.
it's gonna happen in like three or 4 years. I'm gonna say, is it getting thinner? She's gonna go, yes, it absolutely is. So again, hit that thumbs up button. It helps the channel. We greatly appreciate it. Thank you, Raleigh, for noticing the haircut. Good morning to you as well, John. So we've got a lot to get to. The down and dirty at 30 today is brought to you by Zach England of Best and Brock. Zach England has the power to go against those big insurance attorneys. Zach England of Best and Brock brings you the down and dirty at 30. Zach's got your back. So let's go ahead and begin to dive right into it, as Amanda and I discuss at our 5 a.m. production show exactly what we're going to get into. And but we don't go too deep into it, because I don't want to do the show in the parking lot, as somebody once said. So one of the topics du jour was certainly Tennessee and potentially running up the score. So that was discussed by the commentators on Saturday, and it hit a lot of people in a lot of different ways. Now, what's funny is I don't know that we're having this conversation, Amanda, if they don't bring it up. But let me start with that. Do you think from this? Good morning, Kevin. Good morning, David. Do you think we're having this conversation if nothing is mentioned on the television broadcast?
No, yeah, I think we are. I think we're still gonna have the conversation no matter what.
Okay. So here is what I visited with, and this is why I want you to hit that like and subscribe button and share, because there are interviews with Cooper Mays and Jacob Warren on the YouTube page that you can listen to them in their entirety. So I thought this was incredibly honest, and this is the kind of stuff that you don't get at the press conference settings, and the kind of stuff that's said in the locker room behind closed doors, but that is not said publicly. And I thought Jacob Warren was really honest. And why they decided to score that late touchdown with just over 30 seconds left on the 1 yard line. Here's Jacob Warren, Tennessee tight end.
For me, the game is about winning by as much as you can. The game is about scoring as many points as you can and beating your opponent. So at the end of the day, I know there's people that are upset that we ran the score up and that we scored with 30, 40, 50. I don't know how many seconds left on the clock, but we're trying to go play in the college football playoffs. We have to win these games by as much as we can, and in the most dominating fashion that we can, and just show who we are and show that we're the best offense in the nation. And statistically, we would love to be the number one offense in the nation, which we have been. And I don't know where exactly we are now, but that includes points, that includes yards, that includes yards per catch, yards per carry, all those things, all these stats that we're trying to hit. And if that's disrespectful, then I guess you should be playing the game, I guess, if you can't handle getting, I don't know.
Okay, so let me go to you, Amanda. I'll just state this, and then we can get some input from the message board, and I want to get your input too. I have zero issue when you're playing an SEC opponent, and if you want to call it running up the score or not. I never have, whether it's against Tennessee or whether it's against whoever. I think that it can come back to bite you if you do those things, if you're down and the other team's up. So it may not be in your best interest. But as far as any sort of morality, I don't have a problem. Your thoughts on teams, and Southern Cal did the same thing Friday night against Colorado. They scored a late touchdown. So your thoughts on teams scoring late. Do you have an issue with it?
I have just so many things to say on this one. So first, there's a difference between throwing a 40-yard bomb down the field with so many seconds left to go or a minute to go when you're up by 40 points or 30 something points.
So you don't have an issue with necessarily the play at the one as much as the plays before that. Is that
correct?
Okay, gotcha.
That would be there's a difference because we know second string's always going to want to play. We know that, and you shouldn't expect second string to go out there and not give it their all. But there's a difference in throwing a 40-yard bomb and just handing it off to the running back, or just throwing little passes or what have you. There's just a difference in that. It looks different. It just does. And so that's my first thing, was the 40-yard bomb was a little much, I felt like.
Let me address that one real quick. And then I want you to continue. So I hate to interrupt your train of thought. But I've always been of the Spurrier school of thought. You put the backups in, you run the same offense. So I don't have a problem with any play calling if you're running the same offense with the backups in. I got a problem with keeping your starters in till the end of the game. But that's my thoughts on that. Go right ahead.
So my thought on that is, I would understand if it was Hendon Hooker throwing that bomb. I would understand more, because he's going for a Heisman Trophy. Like, you want to pad his stats as much as possible because he's going for a Heisman Trophy. But the fact that it's Joe Milton in there throwing that bomb is an issue to me. Just because it's 1 minute left to go, you don't need to throw a 40-yard pass down the field. Now, second thing, you have to pick a side. You either think it's okay or you don't think it's okay. And it can't be okay when it's your team and not okay when it's Ohio State. It can't be okay when it's Tennessee and not okay when it's, Alabama or whoever else, your rival, Georgia. You have to pick one or the other. You can't have both. You can't do it both ways. So that to me is a big deal, because you will have so many people every time Ohio State plays a game come out and say they run up the score, or like when Urban Meyer was coaching. Urban Meyer, that's what he does. He runs up the score. He's classless, yada, yada, yada. And then turn around, and when their team does it, defend it. You can't do that. You have to stick to one side or the other.
Sure. And I'm not going to pick apart any particular fan or go on social media and look back and see if they said 2 years ago that Tennessee, somebody ran up the score in Tennessee. I have zero problem with it in terms of a coach's decision to do it, no matter who it is, whether it's Ohio State, which did so, Southern Cal, across the board. I have zero problem with it. Because of the way the system's set up. Now, if you want to talk about the way the system is set up and that the committee shouldn't even really count those points in the back of their head, or, there actually used to be a margin of victory that was factored into the BCS. So you look back, it actually was part of the formula. Then if you want to say it's part of the system, that's why I like a 12-team playoff, because I don't think you have plays like this. That's a whole nother debate. But Tennessee's making it. Maybe they're not throwing it deep. So I'm not crazy about the system in that you're awarded for doing things like that, but I got zero problem with teams deciding to do it. So there's no wishy-washiness with me. I've always thought it's your responsibility to stop the other team. Now, I will make an exception. If you're playing UTC, or you're playing a Division II school, an FCS team, I get that. That's a different level of competition. But if you're an SEC team, it's your job. You're on scholarship too. You've been there every bit as long as Josh Heupel has. So in this particular case, I think it's what the system is, and it's what you have to do. So I'm gonna get to the message board, but your thoughts on that?
So that's, it wasn't an attack on you. It was just
I didn't think it
saying
was.
as fans.
I didn't think it was.
Okay. Just as fans have problems when it's not their team.
I bet a burrito it was an attack on me.
Okay.
And I love
burritos. I don't want one. So fans have issues when it's a different team. They do. They have issues, even if it's a team like Ohio State plays Rutgers, or they play a really bad Michigan State, or they play, when Maryland wasn't so good. Fans always had issues talking about Ohio State running up the score. Well, you can't talk about that and then turn around and defend this. That's not okay. And Ohio State was trying to get into the playoffs too. So they're trying to win by the biggest margin of victory. So it was set up. It's set up the same way. It's the exact same thing. So that's my feeling on that. You have to go one way or you have to go the other. Now, third, do you need to say something?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
I'm going to add a layer, but I don't want to do it until you're done.
Okay. So third, Tennessee had the margin of victory by 30-something points at that point. You won the game. No one thought you didn't dominate the game at the end. Up until halftime, yes, it was close. But after that, you won the game. Everyone knew that. Throwing a 40-yard bomb down the field with 1 minute left is a little much. It was very Ohio State-esque. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, so my contention is you run your offense and you run what you think. You don't just run the football because you're up big. That is my contention from the get. That's my baseline. Now, let me add another layer to this. You and I were together, I think, in Atlanta, or we were in Atlanta. It was SEC Media Days when Eli Drinkwitz goes on the Jim Rome show, and as he's being introduced, it was something like this: "I would like to go my guy, Eli Drinkwitz," and before he had even been introduced, Amanda, Eli Drinkwitz thought it would be wise to work in a shot at Tennessee, who had just received their notice of allegations from the NCAA. So was there motivation to score a little bit more because of that? Possibly. And quite frankly, I wouldn't blame Josh Heupel if there was, because and it may sound petty, Amanda, but
especially
I think if that motivated him, and I think it motivated him to score the last touchdown against the Stoops family member against Kentucky. I think we could have been having that conversation if the national broadcasters brought it up. Okay, the last touchdown they scored against Kentucky. But I think there's motivation, yes, I think he has a chip on his shoulder. And I don't have a problem with that. And especially with Eli Drinkwitz taking a shot at Tennessee during the last end of the recruiting cycle when prospects had just made their visit on a national radio show. it doesn't bother me if that's part of your motivation. Now, with all that being said, you do run the risk of infuriating the football gods. You do. That could result in an injury. That could result in maybe one day you're down and Missouri's up. Not likely, but possible. So I think that you run that risk. So pragmatically, you could say you shouldn't have done that. You should just be trying to run out the clock. But from a morality perspective, I have zero problem with it. But I'm curious.
So
Go ahead.
we talk about how mature this Tennessee team is. We talk about how humble they are. We talk about how in such a good headspace that Josh Heupel has them in. Again, you can't have it both ways. You can't say, okay, it's cool for you to be petty, but then talk about how mature and how wonderful and how humble this team is. Like, you can either be petty and be good with that, or you can be humble and, you know, full of humility and want to just, you know, praise them for everything that they are. You can't say, okay, it's cool for this moment, you can be petty, and then next day it's
because of the
it's not.
Because of the situation, I don't see it as petty as at all. Because of the college football committee, do you trust them that they're watching every minute of every game of every team that's involved?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying, you know, if because of Eli Drinkowitz, saying Josh Heupel could probably just tacked on that other one, and that's he can be petty. Either he can be or he can't be. Either he has the emotional maturity and these guys are humble, or they're not. There's there's one or the other.
And I don't know if that was emotion, but you do have to remember this too. These two teams are going to be recruiting against each other. So this is an opportunity to show that you're better than them. Now, how much better? We could certainly debate that. They were already a lot better before the last touchdown or before that long pass downfield. They were already a lot better. So
exactly.
I get where you're coming from. I can see if you I think today on a Monday, we would be having this conversation that Tennessee took a knee and it may have been the sportsmanlike thing to do. However, it could hurt them in the college football playoff committee's eyes. I think we could be having that conversation because, Amanda, I don't trust them. I trust you to make a better decision about who should be in the college football playoff more than them. I really do.
Well, yeah, because we don't know they're all over the place. But this, in my mind, I could argue that this hurts them in the college football playoff committee.
Well, and you may be right. And Bear or whatever, the Bear or Bear brought that up in a tweet, and Eric Ainge attacked him. And Bear brought that up. I'll be interested to see how it plays in the college football committee's mind. I'll be interested to see too. It could cut the other way. I mean, you're right. I don't think it will, but certainly you're open to that. So, your thoughts.
You go from the feel-good story of Tennessee and how, you know, they've been portrayed in the media this season for, you know, and for good reason. You have gospel songs by Hendon Hooker. You have all of this, doing it for faith and being humble and loving the stories of Jalen Hyatt, loving the stories of Byron Young, you know, doing all of that. And then you turn around and then you do something like this. So I think it kind of messes with people's minds. Is all of a sudden you're not the underdog that people are pulling for. All of a sudden you're not that feel good story of the good kids and the sweet guys and you know, the ones you want to win. All of a sudden you're the bully tacking on another touchdown. And Tennessee versus Kentucky, they scored one touchdown, one score in the fourth quarter. And
but they threw it in the zone. That had a feel of I don't like the Stoops family.
And that's one thing or the other. I mean, either way, they still just scored one score in the last, you know, 15 minutes of the game. This one, they've scored 17 points in the last 15 minutes of the game, with one of them coming at seconds left on the clock. And I think that is why people, right or wrong, will have a problem with it. And I believe that it changes people's perceptions of Tennessee. It sends them back to the whole daddy baseball caps and stuff. It reminds them.
Baseball caps. I don't know what that means.
You don't know what the daddy baseball caps are?
No.
You don't know about the baseball team with the daddy hats and all that stuff?
Oh, Tennessee's baseball team. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like people hated them. They loved to hate them because they seemed like they were arrogant bullies. I mean, your football team had that completely opposite. It was a completely opposite view where people were rooting for them because of what a great story they were. And then I feel like, this is just my opinion with other people, they revert back to that baseball team where they go, okay, well now, honestly, it's just Tennessee's just a bunch of arrogant buttholes kind of thing.
Well, I think that there's something to be said for how you're perceived. Okay, so obviously it's a debate. I don't think we're even having this debate I really don't, and you disagree, but I don't think we're even having this conversation if not for Rick Neuheisel bringing it up and the fact that they're throwing it deep and on the 1 yard line. I have no problem with you running your offense. As far as the deep ball, if you want to take a knee on the 1 yard line, that's fine. But if you have a problem with Tennessee doing it, then I'm not saying you rhetorically, but if you have a problem with Tennessee doing it, you have to have a problem with Southern Cal doing it on Friday night. You have to have a problem with Ohio State doing it. So does it take away a little bit of the feel-good story? Yeah, I mean, perhaps. But at the end of the day, the more points they score, unfortunately, the way this system is set up, we should have had a 16-team playoff 20 years ago, okay, in my opinion. But we don't. So I think that you have to do what you got to do. And Tennessee was in the 5th position. It'll be really interesting to see what happens with the college football playoff selection show on Tuesday night. So a lot to get to, not just that. Let's talk about Tennessee. Your thoughts on who stood out. I thought there were a lot of people who stood out. And I thought one of the great stories that, again, you can listen to Cooper Mays and Jacob Warren talk about on our YouTube channel is that Cooper Mays goes up to Jalen Hyatt, puts his arm around him, and says, "Good game." So what does Jalen Hyatt say? He said, "No, I had 2 drops. That's not a good game." So I love the fact that he is very strong in that regard and that he wants to be better. Oh, by the way, he did have another touchdown pass and over 150 yards. So I am absolutely still blown away by this team and their mentality, despite piling on or scoring extra points. We could debate that all day long. All right, as far as the college football playoff, let's take a look at some of the teams that Tennessee has beat earlier in the season, and if those are quality wins now or not. Pitt beat West Virginia 37-7, so the Panthers moved to 6-4. That's not looking like an incredible win anymore. Florida, the Gators took care of business against South Carolina, winning 38-6. Florida moves to 6-4. LSU, the Tigers beat Arkansas 13-10 in a scrappy game. With the win and the Ole Miss loss, the Tigers clinched the SEC West, and along with the Alabama win, that looks like an even more quality win. Alabama, excuse me.
Sorry, without KJ Jefferson, he didn't even play for Arkansas.
Right. I still think it looks like a quality win the way they beat LSU and that LSU is going to represent the West. Alabama needed a great defensive play at the end. They were about, the 16, 17-yard line and tried to run a little dig route to Mingo. That didn't work. And great defensive play. I think you saw Nick Saban, how happy he was. Why? Because it's not been the season he envisioned, I don't believe. Boy, I could still make the case that Bryce Young should be the Heisman Trophy winner. I don't care if it's 2 times. I don't care if the numbers don't match up. I think he does as much with as little as anybody, and he's going to be on my ballot somewhere 1, 2, or 3. But that to me looks like still a quality win. Kentucky fell to Vanderbilt. That didn't help Tennessee whatsoever. Georgia, by the way, Georgia handled Mississippi State. I think that Georgia's the best team in the nation right now, and we'll see if Tennessee's able to get any sort of rematch. But at the end of the day, when you look at what happened across the board, there really wasn't that major shakeup. TCU beat Texas in a pretty ugly game. I stayed up to watch that one. And as far as the teams ahead of them, you're waiting for Michigan and Michigan State to play each other. You don't want that to be close. Georgia's not going to lose unless they slip up in the SEC championship game. So really not a lot of shakeup. Unless they want to make TV drama, Amanda, I think Tennessee should still be in the 5th spot at the end of the day. I don't see them moving for any good reason other than TV drama. But I bet you there'll be TV drama in some shape, form, or fashion. I bet they'll move. I bet it won't be the same exact top 5 for TV drama.
I think it will be.
I would bet my burrito on that once again.
I don't want your burrito, but I do think you're wrong in this sense. I think they're going to keep.
My wife makes delicious burritos. Everybody wants my burrito.
Okay, I don't think. I'm sure that people might want Shanda's burrito, but not yours, because she's the one that makes the burritos. So that's fair.
That's
but true. I think it'll be the same. I think it'll be exactly the same.
I hope you're right, because that would be integrity.
I think it will be. Watching these shows, they've done that before. If nobody drops, if nobody loses, if everybody plays the way that they think they're going to play, then they'll just keep them exactly the same.
Kevin pointed out that Oregon lost. Now, that's a good point, Kevin, that we didn't bring up, because if Oregon had run the table, and which I didn't really ever think they would do, but if they had run the table and they win the Pac-12 championship, it would be really hard to keep them out. So I get that. I totally understand that. But I didn't think they would, so I didn't include them in the breakdown. Goodness gracious, we're talking about Bo Nix. Let's get to today's tough question. Today's tough question is brought to you by Guardian Investments. Guardian Investments, all you have to do is go to giaplantoday.com. Now, you can video conference and get the absolute best financial advising in the biz at giaplantoday.com. Tell them Off the Hook Sports sent you, giaplantoday.com. And the great thing I love about Gary and the guys is they explain the process to you. What that means is that they're going to tell you this is the best place to allocate your funds, but this is why. A lot of people do not do that. So I appreciate that out of Gary and the gang. So it is time for today's tough question, and it's brought to you today by Guardian Investments, giaplantoday.com.
We do our research. Have you done your research?
We're working like heck.
Today's tough question. What's the real debate?
You sipping my soupe, Guadalupe?
Exclusively on Off the Hook Sports with Dave Hooker and Amanda LaFratta.
You drinking my sake, kimosabi?
Oh my God.
All right, you always have veto power, Amanda, but here's the direction I was going to go with today's tough question and get your thoughts on it. I think I know where this will end up, but how concerned are you that Tennessee will be left out of the college football playoff? Immensely, very slightly, not at all. So I asked that question by what we just discussed, and also I asked that question based off the fact that there wasn't shakeup above Tennessee. You did have the Oregon loss, so that takes one potential team out of the equation. But what do you think of that question? Dean says slightly already. So slightly concerned left out of the college football playoff. I think Dean is probably in the right mindset there. I think if Tennessee wins out and they win convincingly and they run up the score on everybody, joke intended, that I think that they will. I think they'll make the college football playoff, but I've got some concern there, just because TCU I thought was going to lose to Texas. So Brittany says, I guess administration at Missouri is regretting that raise and contract extension for poor coach Drink. Well, I thought that too. That was a weird timed announcement on an extension and contract too. The middle of November, right before you're playing on the road at Tennessee.
It's not like you've looked good this season, so I don't understand it. Like, what are you doing?
Now,
Did somebody come after him? If somebody came after him, then I'd be like, all right, peace out, man.
maybe it's Jim Rome looking for a co-host. That's possible. All right. So your thoughts on those four? Those four.
So
where would you put that?
So I changed it just a little bit because I think very and immensely are the same. I mean, they're really close. So I changed it to very, fairly concerned, slightly concerned, and not at all.
Okay. I can roll with that just fine. So let's do that. We got Chris Landry coming up, the coach at LandryFootball.com. And look at me. I can see, and I'm not wearing contacts right now, and I don't have to wear glasses for up close or far away. It's pretty incredible. And I think Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn right there on Weisgarber for taking care of my eyes. I had the LASIK procedure. The thing that I love about Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn is they are local. Other doctors will just fly in and see you, do the surgery. No, you want people that have your best interest at heart, and that's Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn. So absolutely love them. Cataract surgery as well. Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn, local vision care that you just can't get anywhere else. The coach, Chris Landry, up next on Off the Hook Sports.
Sun, sand, and salt water, the beach is a very relaxing place. Unless you wear contacts. Ow! Open your eyes to the best the beach has to offer with LASIK vision correction from Campbell Cunningham Laser Center.
Hey folks, Gary Viles here, Viles Automotive on Callahan Drive. I've been selling cars here in East Tennessee for 27 years. In that time, I've come to realize it's not about the car. It's about you, the customer. So I'm here to take care of you just like family. Good credit, bad credit, you name it, we can get you taken care of. If we don't have it, we can find it for you. We go across the country to get any vehicle that you want. And here at Viles Automotive, we don't believe in fake numbers. We just give you great deals. And as always, we want, we need, and we appreciate your business.
Do you want to own the more that owns every job? Then get to Vassy Lawn and Garden in Cleveland and get you a Toro. I'm David Vassy, here to talk to you about Toro. With a Toro Zero Turn, you'll get more out of every minute and you'll reach the finish line faster. At Vassy's, we like to say, no matter if you're mowing 3 acres a week or 11 lawns a day, homeowners and business owners alike find confidence in equipment they can trust from top to bottom.
Vassy Lawn and Garden, Highway 60 North in Cleveland.
Man alive, it's worth the drive.
This is Steve Rain. I own the Midnight Oil and Michelin Tire Direct service station here in Ottawa. It's not a fancy place, never has been, but it's a clean place with clean restrooms and good folks who work here. We sell gas and fix cars, nothing glamorous, but we love what we do, and we're going to keep doing it for a long time to come. There's not many real service stations left, and that's a shame. We're the guys just like the guys back in your hometown. We'll fix your tire, change your oil, and put a new set of Michelins on your car. If you want a Twinkie, you'll just have to keep on going. Thanks for the business.
Podcast at offthehooksports.com or Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, or wherever you go for your favorite podcasts. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, TuneIn, iHeart. Like, share, follow, subscribe. Off the Hook with Dave Hooker starts now.
All righty, let's get to it. Chris Landry of LandryFootball.com with Amanda LaFratta. I'm Dave Hooker. Chris, good morning. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good. How are you guys doing?
I'm well. Hey, I want to talk ball as much as anything because I learned so much from you. But I do want to get your thoughts on the discussion that cropped up during the broadcast of the Tennessee game on Saturday in which they pounded Missouri, threw deep late, and scored a touchdown late. And the announcers talked about sportsmanship and whether Tennessee was piling on. Chris, what are your thoughts, especially in this day and age of trying to impress, and this goes back to the BCS days, trying to impress a committee, a group, a formula? What are your thoughts on running up the score?
Well, in general, I'm not a big fan of it. I grew up old school. I don't really. I'm a big believer in when you get the game under control. I try to control the game, and I'm not looking to have style points. For Tennessee, that's their offense. That's what they do. They run up tempo, which is, again, I go the other way real quickly. This is where against a good team, you do that because that's all you can really do. It's the only thing you do. It's the only thing you practice. The only thing you believe in. Then what happens if you have a couple of, incompletions, an interception? I have seen, for example, Mike Leach's teams give up a 47-point lead in one quarter when he was at Washington State against UCLA. So I've seen stuff happen. Now, it can happen. Now, not against Missouri and what have you, but it can happen. So I'm not a big believer in that. I believe, philosophically, I like just dominating, but and controlling team with power once you got to lead. But that's not how Tennessee's built. The other thing you got to factor in, Tennessee is definitely trying to go for style points. If it comes down to a beauty contest, scoring 66 instead of 57 is a little bit of an eyeball bulger at you if you're trying to pick it. And let's not escape the elephant in the room, okay? This was Missouri, and we go back to July and Eli Drinkwitz's comments about Tennessee. Don't think that had a lot to do with it, too. I'm not saying that he won't do this against South Carolina or Vanderbilt if he gets a chance, because I think he is for style points. But I guess what I'm saying is he might do it and not really like it. I think he liked pouring it on Missouri. I think if he could have scored 80, he probably would have, because I think of, obviously the comments that Eli made. Now, is that right? Is that wrong? I don't get into that, but, I think not that two wrongs don't make a right. I think Eli's comments in July were unprofessional and juvenile, and I'll leave it at that. I mean, you might think that. I think most people probably felt that. Some things are, let the knucklehead fans on message boards, say that type of stuff. You don't say that as a head coach. But hell, the AD there gave him a 2-year extension. So
okay.
Maybe they love that.
The way you said that, because Amanda and I were just talking about why in the world did they announce that extension last week with a very average to below average season? What in the world?
It doesn't make any sense. But let me just say this, because I've been around this a lot. I'd like to see the contract. Is there an increase in the buyout? There's an assumption that there is. I don't like to assume. So if it's a 2-year extension without any more increase in the buyout, then it's clear what the 2-year extension is. It is to show faith in recruiting. If you've decided, I knew when they gave Blake Baker an extension, the defense coordinator, that something was going to happen with Eli getting an extension, because they don't extend the defense coordinator. If you're not, so I knew something was coming. But if you give him the extension and you don't have a greater buyout, more in the buyout, well, all it is on paper to help in recruiting, which is why you do it. But if you owe him more, that's, and I think the ADs today, they don't care about the money. They make so much of it. Well, we want to keep them. We've got to give them a 2-year deal. And, hey, these agents are able to, particularly 2 of them in particular, one of them mainly, is really good at getting people to do that.
Yes, I think it's
happens to be a Tennessee grad.
Yeah, not rhyme with Texan.
You used to work in the equipment room and used to lay out Reggie White's socks and other things. Yeah, just great. It's a great country.
He's doing okay. Chris's appearance brought to you in part by Zool Beer Company. Zool Beer Company, go to xulbeer.com. And Zool Beer Company has worldwide award-winning craft beer, great merch, and a great place downtown with parking in Knoxville. That never happens, Amanda.
No, it does not. So let's just jump on this coaching carousel. Now.
Okay.
There's so many. There's reports coming out that Auburn and Lane Kiffin are close. Some blue check marks. There's Lance Leopold to Nebraska. All this other stuff. What are you hearing? Because you're in the know as far as coaches go. What are you hearing?
Well,
especially Lane. I want to hear where Lane's going.
And cheap plug, because we may not get to all of them, but cheap plug. I did go to LandryFootball.com on the podcast section. It's free. I've got a special on that where I cover everybody, including some that may not be that we'll get into here. But so some of it's going to be repetitive for those that listen to it. But it's I think it's a good listen. Check it out. I guess let's just start at first. I think that Lance is definitely in the mix at Nebraska. I think there's a couple of other possibilities that they're looking into as well. I do believe the Auburn situation is probably of most interest to this audience. I think Lane is definitely interested in Auburn. My guess is he'll take it. I think the only thing from Lane's point of view is, does he feel like he's going to have the full support where he can run his program, or is there going to be somebody that's, going to be, and I think that the right guy who they deem is the right guy, I think they would, but I think he's definitely interested. My sense is he'll take it if he's offered. There has nothing been officially offered. I know that's the media, but it doesn't mean that something's not imminent. We're close, okay, with 2 weeks left. There's a whole lot of support in the Auburn family for Cadillac. They can't, in my opinion, you can't hire an emotion. Cadillac is I know it's exciting. It was electric Saturday night. It just, he's not qualified for that job, and was just part of the Auburn family. Auburn's too good of a job to just do that. And I think people have come out, Deion is not a proven coach. I mean, at a big time level. You can't run if you're South Florida, I would consider saying, you know what, Deion, let's, because you know what, you can't have we'll see if a guy can coach, once we hire him type. I don't believe in all that stuff. I think that's too big of a job. Hugh Freeze has been mentioned. That relationship between John Cohen, the former athletic director at Mississippi State, and Hugh Freeze, the former coach at Ole Miss, is going to be interesting. That is let's just say that is a big hurdle that they gotta have some kumbaya moment and let bygones be bygones. I don't know where that is because neither one will talk on or off the record about that. But I can tell you where that relationship was a few years ago. That is that's just not, let's just say that's just not really good. So I don't know if that's the direction they have to go. That's the hurdle that would be in that. I mean, what else? I don't know what else. There's some others. We talked about Nebraska. I think Ryan Walters is probably the defense coordinator at Illinois, is probably going to get the Colorado job, but I think he's the favorite there. But that's kind of the latest on the major openings at this point.
Be interesting to see if Lane would be offered the Auburn job. The question I would have is, I know he has concerns at Ole Miss that there's not as much NIL money as the Tennessees of the world, the Floridas of the world. I mean, you could go on and on. There's probably 4 or 5 teams or 7 or 8 that have more NIL money than Ole Miss. But is there a significant boost, you think, in terms of the NIL money that would be at Auburn as compared to Ole Miss?
Yes, and well, it's not just NIL. Yes, and other advantages. Look, I'll put it to you this way. Lane feels like he's taken Ole Miss as far as I can go. Mm-hmm. That there is for people who are not the uninformed of how things work behind the scenes, they think Ole Miss is on a par with Auburn. They're not. They're on a par. They're had better wins. It's amazing how people look at just, well, who's winning as what's the better program. It's like, people who said, well, the Tennessee program's awful. Look how many coaches they've had. No. The on-the-field product's been awful, but, get the right guy, and there's a difference. Auburn has won titles, competed for titles. They can do things that Ole Miss can't do in terms of staff creations, in terms of facilities. They're on a different level. Ole Miss, there's a tremendous frustration. And NIL is a part of it, Dave. It's one of a list that's pretty long about what Auburn can do that Ole Miss can't do. I mean, it's just the way it is. And you have to have a guy. There's one thing that Ole Miss is an advantage of. If you don't compete and win big, if you can win 8, 9, 10 games a year at Ole Miss, you can have that job forever. The pressure to win big at the highest level is not there. And I do think Ole Miss is good enough that when we go to a 12-team playoff with the right coach, and Lane would be that guy, I think they could get into the playoffs in a 12-team playoff, because I think they could be the third or fourth best team in the SEC in a given year. But to win in the playoffs, to have a program that can win, it's not. You look at what he does at Ole Miss. He can't go get 5-star guys, and he is an elite recruiter. He went and got those type of guys at Tennessee. Now, some of them were the wrong type of character guys, but he can get them. At Ole Miss, he can't. The way he gets 5 stars, he goes get the transfer guys, and you can do that to a point, but that makes coaching tough, because you got to put a lot of things and make that soup taste good, and it's difficult. It's difficult rather than transfer portal's here to stay, but I think it's clear that in the coaching profession, to the opinions that matter, Auburn would be the better job, provided you want to deal with the Auburn circumstances and the expectations. And look, it's a tough job. You got to play Georgia and Alabama every year.
Yeah.
I mean, so you're basically starting to where those two programs are better. And even if you reach that level, you probably are not going to be real happy, I mean, whereas if you do that, if you beat Mississippi State every year and you win 9 games a year, you got that job for as long as you want it. So, but what does Lane want? What is he's a high thinker, and so I think he would consider it. Let me just say this though, and they're not all on board at Auburn with Lane at this point. Meaning there's some people that are not as comfortable with it. I don't think it's like something that I think they're going to all be on board with whoever they're hired. I'm pretty confident, but I think it's like, lobbyists in Congress where they're going to have to, okay, I'm not for it, but I'll vote for it because I'll ask for a favor later. That's what is going on right now, because they're not 100% on Lane. They're definitely not 100% on Hugh. So there's some got to come together, and well, I'll agree to that if you agree. That sort of stuff is going on right now. And I don't think Cadillac is a serious contender, although I think he'll get an interview. I think Deion will get an interview, but he's not a serious contender. That's the way I see that job right now, and I don't know obviously where it's going to end up.
Fantastic input. You have to hit that like button, the thumbs up button, subscribe, and share. We're throwing heat today with information and some pretty good takes as well. Smoky Mountain Red, I want to get to your point. First, though, Amanda has something, and I'll remind you that Chris's appearance brought to you in part by Owl's Nest Barbecue. Fantastic barbecue supplies right there in Ottawa. Owl's Nest Barbecue. You'll absolutely love it. The rubs, the sauces, and also the Green Mountain grills that are phenomenal. Amanda?
There's been a lot of talk about Nick Saban, and I know we covered this, last week.
Mm-hmm.
But let's do the whole, if Josh Heupel leaves, who's going to go to Tennessee? Let's do if Coach Saban retires, Who's Alabama looking at?
So you got to retire this year is what you're talking about. If he retires this year, because it timing's everything.
Right.
Amanda, I'm going to be honest with you. He's not going to retire this year. And so it's tough to really go there, but let's just play the game. I think he'll have, here's what I do feel about the Alabama job if he would have. Nick Saban's not going to hire the next coach, but they will not hire somebody that Nick Saban doesn't put his stamp of approval on.
So that would Lane get that stamp of approval? No, I didn't think so.
No,
really?
No. They do not like one. I mean, I can tell you. I mean, they put on that happy face type thing. You know, that is not the whole. I mean, and that's what Lane does. He does what Lane does. He does the trolling with. Did you see the thing he did? And I'm not a Twitter follower, but somebody sent me this. He's got the dog now, the little dog, and and the little dog said, "Is Grandpa staying with us this weekend?" Did you see that?
I did.
Dave Mandan said, "Dave, did you see that?"
No, I'm missing the reference.
So Lane has this dog that he adopted, and he calls it Juice Kiffin. And in typical Lane fashion, he has given Juice Kiffin a Twitter account. So he tweets Juice Kiffin. I mean, the dog is tweeting. It's Lane tweeting for the dog, obviously, or whoever does the stuff. But Nick Saban is kind of refers to Lane. Refers to Nick Saban as his dad. So he's saying his grandpa, Nick Saban, staying with us this weekend when they come to Oxford. And he does all that stuff and the trolling and all that. But I don't no. That's a little bit of a I don't think there's hate, but there's a complete difference of how Lane handles things. Nick is not a big favor of a young guy, new age thinking type stuff. So to be the question. So I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't think everyone says Dabo. It's not. Dabo doesn't have the support inside Alabama. I'll be honest with you. Really don't. There's not. That is a tough job. It is a unique job. It is replacing Nick Saban, and they're not going to have to worry about it unless there's some, God forbid, health issues for at least a couple of years, maybe more. But if it would have happened right now, there is no favorite. I can tell you there's just not. I mean, but things have a way of working out. I mean, it's going to be all over the place. Everybody's going to have that. And, see, people are saying that, Lane would never take the Auburn job because he's waiting for the Alabama job. He ain't waiting for the Alabama job, because if he's waiting, just because, Joe Fan wants Lane Kiffin, that ain't going to happen. I can tell you, I don't see that happen. So I don't know where they would go. I really don't. It would be something that would, there's just not that favorite type of a guy. I can tell you who a lot of them liked that, it's if he were to have success and that he's got a lot of support, was Mario Cristobal. But Mario's struggling to try to get that program off the ground at Miami. And I don't think would not be anywhere near the favorite. And I just don't think there would be. I think it'd be real interesting to see.
You have to hit that like, subscribe, and share button. We greatly appreciate that. It helps the show. And check out our YouTube page for exclusive interviews with Jacob Warren and Cooper Mays, current Tennessee football players, who gave us some great insight on whether or not they were running up the score and all that other good stuff. So, Chris, Smoky Mountain Red asked about the transfer portal concerning Texas A&M. How concerned would you be if you're Jimbo Fisher and the amount of players? Let's say I put the over-under at 20.5 players. 20.5. Would you take the over or the under?
No, I'd take the under. That's an awful lot. I'd put the over under at 10 or 12.
That's
that
still a lot, though.
Yeah, but 20 is like, look, I think I would be real concerned. Obviously, I don't know the attitude of the players. I mean, we know. I can tell you, it's a mess. It is a big time mess. I mean, I'm not breaking news on that, but I got to tell you, looking at the tape, they are horrendous. Let this sink in. Statistically, which doesn't tell you everything, but statistically and on film, they have a worse offense than Vanderbilt.
Ouch.
I mean, and I'm not. That's not one of those things that you just say, "Hey, they're cute. They're worse." No. They're worse than Vanderbilt right now. They are. Not a joke. Not kidding. Being serious. They really, really are bad. This is not an easy fix. It's not a quick fix, and I think there's a lot of decisions that need to be made. A lot of staff decisions, a lot of direction, and I think transfer portal dancers. I think it could be big. I think it could be big, which again is all the more reason where are you getting the right guys? Are they buying in? I don't know. On film, it doesn't look like it, and I just can't think it can't be really good inside that locker room and that feeling. And not only that, but you know how this stuff works. It's the family members and the hangers-on that are telling them, "Man, this is a mess." They're hearing all that negativity. You know, you'd be better off going here, there, and there are other schools that are reaching out to the high school coaches and the hangers-on. They still, that's the thing in this new age. You continue to remember when it used to be in my day when I was a recruiting coordinator, you never recruited a guy that committed to another school. Now they recruit you not only even if you've committed, they continue to recruit you. You go to another school and they still recruiting you. That was like highly unethical back then. Today, it's just that's what's done. So all of that is what they're going to have to face. And are they strong enough to be able to keep those guys from jumping ship? I don't know, but my guess is they've got a lot of work to do on that front to keep them.
Wow. If you go into one of those acronym supplement stores, you probably don't know what you're getting. Make sure what you put in your body is the right ingredients, and that's Nutrition World. Go to nutritionw.com. Nutritionw.com, voted one of the top e-commerce sites in the land. So you need to check them out and know that your supplements are exactly what they're supposed to be. Nutrition World, nutritionw.com. That is Nutrition World. All right, Amanda.
So how much? So this is what I think is going to happen. This is just my opinion. That Texas A&M is going to do one of those like, hey, NCAA, maybe Jimbo did something bad, and come take a look. And then the buyout goes away, basically, and then they can get rid of him. How close do you think it is for them to get rid of Jimbo Fisher at A&M?
I think it depends on how well they've covered their tracks. You know what happens if that's done? There's going to be a lawsuit.
Yeah.
And when you start doing that, you know, at some point you're looking at it, it's going to make it, that's going to be a lot more negative. Because as you try to move, I mean, that's been said out there. And I think that obviously folks in Tennessee think about that a lot because that's exactly what they did. But they had a guy that, let's just call it, wasn't the sharpest tool in the shed, that didn't cover his tracks, that, you know, it was pretty easy. I don't think that's the case. Of course, I didn't think that Jeremy would have, you know, the wife, you know, involved either. There's a lot of things I was shocked on, but I don't think that's happening at A&M. I think they've kind of, this is all kind of handled. So I don't think they'd get away with that personally. And if they did, you got to be careful, because then if you do that, if it's not a clean thing, it's negativity on top of negativity for the program. And then you're still going to be spending the money. You just be on to all of the lawyers. You'd be better off saying, you know, let's just take and come to an agreement by, you know, and the third thing is here's my sense. There's no one that matters at A&M that has jumped ship on Jimbo. They feel like.
Are you talking about it from the administration standpoint?
And the key boosters.
Okay.
That they're not just, it is, this is what's going on. It's, you got to fix this. We believe in you. You fix this. You've been given this. You fix it. Because I don't think there's an easy answer if they go out and want to hire somebody either. I mean, let's just say they did. I mean, they could go, you can fix this. You have to fix it. Now, if he is resistant and says, go kick rocks because you can pay me, then I think it becomes contentious. Then I think next year they're having to come up with the money to do it. And I think that if he doesn't want to do it this year, there'd be some people that would say, you know what, if he thinks this is how he's going to handle it and he doesn't want to make the changes, then, we really need to be thinking about raising the money. But I think what's going to happen is you got to fix this, Jimbo, because maybe the fan base, the people, those are not the key people. The key people, the booster faction believes he can fix it, wants him to fix it. And look, you've kind of got us into this. We've paid you this. You got to fix it. If he doesn't do that, then I think there's a, then there's going to be some real problems going forward. But I don't think they're comfortable with moving on from him. And it's more than just the money buyout. Is where do they go? Who do they hire? What do they do? I think they feel like their best chance is you got to fix it. And here's the thing. If you're Jimbo, yeah, he could say go kick rocks, but his hit is so bad. I've said this before. If A&M was 7-5 or 8-4, he might be able to sell, look, we had this happen, that we're going to be fine next year. It's hit rock bottom, which may be the best thing for A&M. And if you're going to lose. It's not good now, but talk about taking your medicine. Jimbo, I think, has been humbled. It may not sound like it, but I think he knows that if he doesn't, yeah, he can walk away with a lot of money, but with nothing of a reputation coaching-wise intact if he doesn't fix this. And so I think he's going to make the substantive changes because everybody loves a redemption story. If he comes back and he wins 8 or 9 next year and then look at that. He made those changes. And there are issues. Look, Brian Kelly went through a similar situation at Notre Dame. Not as bad. He complete overhaul. And he turns things around at Notre Dame. And so I think that's where Jimbo is. I think he's been humbled enough to where he knows he's got to do it. Whereas opposed to if he's 7-5, 8-4, my way works. He doesn't sound like it, but I think he's going to make that decision.
Well,
we'll see.
Chris, I would add to that. He didn't leave Florida State in the best situation, and I felt
awful terms. Yeah.
I felt like he was ready to cruise a year or two before he did it, and that was reflected in his recruiting. So,
yes,
as far as his reputation, if he doesn't turn it around at A&M, he's doing the Les Miles at Kansas thing, and that's about the best job he's going to get.
Oh yeah, no, there's no question about it, and he's young, and the money matters. But look, he'll get a ton of money. But I think he feels like he's in a situation where his reputation's at stake. And if he makes the moves and he does it, and if it doesn't work and it doesn't work out, well, then, it's tough, but he still maybe has a chance to salvage his reputation. But if he's going to be hard-headed and say, my way is going to work, it's always going to work, and then I think he is damaging he will further damage his reputation because, look, there's no question about it. The last year at Florida State in particular, I mean, he had that wasn't a search at A&M. That was Scott Woodard and Jimbo Fisher. That deal was locked up midseason, and as we say, he let go of the rope pretty quickly. I mean, he was out the door, and that's known, and that's why the Florida State folks hate him. And I always say, yeah, well, it's true, but you also didn't have the money to do the things that he wanted done for a few years. You don't quit on your team, though. That was bad. I completely understand him leaving Florida State. He should have, because that was, the A&M has got more money and got more resources. But all that money, if you don't know what you're doing and you don't do it right, you can see it just is a lot of empty promises, and he's got to fix that. And if he can't fix it, and he's stubborn, he's going to ruin his reputation. He won't be able to go back home to West Virginia and get that job. I mean, he would have a hard time in a lot of things, if he doesn't figure that out. He's got to fix that. And I think they believe in him, not maybe the fan base. The fan base is going to always, but the key people, I think that's where it's headed.
Wow. Okay, well, just real quick, this is out of left field, and I'm sorry to keep you too long, but
no, that's fine. We haven't even talked about what a great weekend it was for Tennessee.
It was a great
away from Missouri.
Yeah. Okay. So, and I do want to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah.
But A&M, would they have interest in Lane real quickly? And then I do want to ask you a question about Tennessee.
If the timing were right, yeah. But again, I don't think they're going at that right. I think, it absolutely would be with the money and all that. Yeah, absolutely. Look, here's the thing about it. Here's the thing about the A&M job. They've never won and all that, and that's true. But they've got everything you'd want. They say, I want this. We'll give you 2. Just to have a backup. You want to have a backup indoor facility? We'll have one of those too, just in case. You don't like the color in the first. I mean, they just are gaudy. So, yeah, they can do what anybody else can do, maybe even better. But you got to have the right guy doing it. That is absolutely true. And don't really have the politics that you have at Auburn. So, in some ways, it's, but they've never won there. I mean, 1939. I mean, the Queen, God rest her soul, wasn't even a queen then. Think about that. Just the last time A&M's won a quote-unquote national title, 1939.
I can't do any more Queen coverage. Last thing, who rated the highest when you broke down the film in the Tennessee game? What ball stood out to you?
Actually, full disclosure, not done with the tape yet, so I can answer that. And not done with the tape yet, but I do say what I can tell you. Who did good? Obviously, Hooker and Hi-Hat, rinse and repeat. I thought Brew McCoy did a really good job. I want to give a little shout out to Dylan Sampson. I thought did a really good job.
Yeah.
Tyler Barron, Brandon Turnage in the secondary. Jordan Thomas, another guy that did a really good job on special teams, I thought, going down the field. So those are some guys that kind of stood out to me at this point in breaking down the tape.
Good stuff. Somebody said Fant, which I'm sure you would.
Yeah, he did. Well, I mean, he had the big play, but just overall, play in, play out, it was a good game. Yeah, I wouldn't put him on the first list, but he played pretty good. Yeah, he did.
Chris, good stuff. LandryFootball.com. We certainly appreciate it. We will talk to you on Thursday. Big week as Tennessee gets ready for South Carolina. Go to LandryFootball.com. Thank you, Chris.
Hey, thank you so much, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you, buddy. I appreciate it. I've got an appointment this week, and it's going to be at Big Orange Phillies. Looking forward to that. Big Orange Phillies is phenomenal. Great food. Amanda, you've had it. The food is fantastic. It's a family environment, and it's a lot of fun when it comes to billiards, when it comes to throwing darts, the whole 9 yards. That's Big Orange Phillies. It is just incredible. Back in 2 minutes with this day in sports history and this day in Tennessee sports history as well. Thank you to Brittany. Hit that like button, the thumbs up. We greatly appreciate it. Go ahead and subscribe and share. We appreciate that as well. For Amanda LaFratta, I'm Dave Hooker. 2 minutes, and we're back with this day in sports history.
Has risen to the highest level in over 40 years, according to the April 2022 U.S. inflation calculator. Will your investments provide you the income you need in retirement? Are you losing purchasing power of your savings due to inflation? Simply stated, if the cost of goods and services are 8% higher and you're only earning 4% in your investments, that money buys you less of what you need. Right now is the time to act. Call Guardian Investment Advisors today.
Hey folks, Gary Viles here. I want to personally invite you to North Knoxville's newest sports bar and restaurant. It's Big Orange Phillies, located in Black Oak Center. And yes, folks, it's happening in Halls. Big Orange Phillies offers family-friendly environment with homemade meals and the best deli-style subs around. Billiards, darts, jukebox, shuffleboard, and cornhole, and a full bar. We also offer valet parking on weekends and during special events. We even have a covered back patio. It's happening at Big Orange Phillies. We want, we need, and we appreciate your business.
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
Dare to compare. This is Al's Dish Barbecue Supply, so come on in and see all the different rubs and sauces we have, plus a complete line of Green Mountain grills. Don't be overwhelmed. We have plenty of help so you can produce the best barbecue and amaze your family and friends. Barbecue is America's food. We'll do what we can to bring you all the best products. We're Al's Nest Barbecue, but Chattanooga goes to grill.
Got cataracts? We can fix that. Never miss another moment. With a little help from Doctors Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn at cctis.com.
This day in sports history, putting things in perspective, exclusively on Off the Hook Sports with Dave Hooker.
You're so old. When you were a kid, rainbows were black and white.
And Amanda LaFratta.
New kids on the block just called. They wanted you as a backup dancer.
Well, this was kind of a big one. I bet you anybody over the age of 30, 35 maybe, remembers this one. 1998, November the 14th, number 1 Tennessee defeated number 10 Arkansas 28-24 in a battle of unbeatens. People forget that Arkansas team, had they beaten Tennessee, probably had an outside shot at making the BCS national championship game. They would have been an outside shot, but they had a shot, and Tennessee would go on to win the national title. That's the Clint Sterner game in which he decided it would be appropriate to use the football as a cane. That's usually frowned upon, Amanda.
Sometimes that is. Sometimes that is.
Thought that would stabilize him in his fall, and it was almost as if he had money on the game and left the ball just sitting there. And wow, what a game. Unbelievable. It seemed like Tennessee was completely out of that game at the end. I don't even know why they threw the ball, why they ran play action, but they did. They probably could have just run the clock out. And what did Tennessee do in response? They just handed it over and over to Travis Henry. He gained 43 yards in 5 plays, scored the game-winning touchdown, and wow, that was an incredible day. That 1998 season, people talk about the Florida game, and I certainly get that. But if not for that game, then the Florida game would have kind of been lost in the shuffle. And by the way, we'll add this too. Chicago Bulls NBA player Dennis Rodman weds Baywatch actress Carmen Electra. I guess where they got married. This will be a real stunner for you, Amanda.
Miami.
No, where do people get married that most oftentimes have regrets?
Gatlinburg.
It's probably in the top.
I'm kidding.
5.
Vegas.
Yeah,
Vegas,
they got married
obviously.
in Vegas, the little chapel, where John Adams of Off the Hook Sports got married as well. So, but that worked out. So
Okay.
that's completely different. So this day in sports history is brought to you by Vols Automotive Group, right there on Callahan. Vols Automotive Group is all about integrity. They want, they need, and they appreciate your business. At Callahan, they are the center of where you need to shop for your car, and it's worth the drive if you're in West Knoxville because the selection is unbelievable. And Biles Automotive Group, please tell them that Off the Hook Sports sent you. Also have a fantastic service department that will take care of your car with integrity. So Tennessee with a college football playoff coming out tomorrow. Be interesting to see where they land. You can definitely chalk off one team that could have possibly made the move in Oregon, although I didn't think that would happen. Smoky Mountain Red said, if the worm had a wedding in Gatlinburg, I am there. He's just a really, really interesting dude.
Eccentric.
Yeah. Eccentric, but also very unstable emotionally. Like, to be able to play. Do you remember? You probably don't. When he was a long time ago. He won Defensive Player of the Year award at 1989-ish. Yeah, you don't remember that. You're like 8. And
I was 3.
3. Sorry, bad math. All right, so well, you look like you are like 22. So
Thank you, Dave.
did I salvage myself?
No.
You're smiling, so maybe slightly.
I'm smiling for this show.
But he bawled out loud when he won the Defensive Player of the Year in the NBA. Just absolutely bawled out loud. And yeah, he was the one too that during the Bulls run to their last championship said, I need 48 hours off. And he went to Vegas. I don't know if they got married on this particular weekend or not, because it would have been during the playoff run. But he said, I needed a break, went to Vegas, and Michael Jordan immediately turned to Phil Jackson and said, he's not going to be back in 48 hours. He's not going to come back. So after about 58 hours, I think they said, Michael Jordan flew to Vegas to go get Dennis Rodman. And who answered the door?
Carmen Electra.
There you go. And she went and hid behind the couch because she was scared of Michael Jordan. Probably. Yeah.
Seems very... Oh, probably drug induced. That makes more sense. Okay.
That could make sense. Yeah, and somebody asked about any basketball talk, so I did want to mention this. So pretty surprised to see Tennessee, and get your thoughts, but Tennessee, as far as the way they played last night, was a little befuddling to me against Colorado to lose 78-66, and the term complacent was used. It's early in the season, and let's face it, it's what you do in March. But after whipping Gonzaga 99-80 and a very comfortable win against Tennessee Tech 75-43, to lose to Colorado in Nashville was a little bit surprising to me. Now, they'll play Florida Gulf Coast on Wednesday, so you would think they'll get back on the winning ways. And then the battle for Atlantis for Butler in the Bahamas is coming up later in the month on November the 23rd. So, again, it is November. It's not really basketball season. Maybe it's not in their minds. But, Dustin, you brought it up. I was a little bit surprised that Tennessee didn't have a better showing. That to me, it's not a cause for concern, but it's something you kind of pin up on your pegboard and say, if they struggle down the line, you wonder about the maturity of this team. Smoky Mountain Reds said they seem to be in cruise control, and it bit them in the bad word. Yeah, I think that's exactly what happened. And cruise control against any team in November is going to happen. So, all right. And by the way, you're a Packers fan now, right?
No.
Oh, I thought you got won over by your.
No, I'm a Titans fan. I'm not a Packers fan.
Oh, okay.
Dear God, no. We're going to the Packers game because they're playing the Titans on Thursday.
Oh, but he's from Wisconsin, so I would assume that he's a Packers fan, right?
Yes, he is.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not a Wisconsin Badgers fan either, but he is. We don't have to share our sports.
No, you don't. No, you don't. So will you be decked out in Titans gear in Lambeau? By the way, I was referring to the Cowboys blowing that one. They should have won that game. But the Packers win 31-28. Will you be decked out in your Titans gear?
I will, underneath my heated coat and my fuzzy boots and my heated socks and everything else. You won't be able to tell what fan I am because everything that is going to be showing is going to be something that is heated because it is freezing. It is freezing.
Maybe you'll get like the Indian summer, is what they used to call it when it would get warm for like a week. Maybe you'll get an Indian summer in Green Bay.
No, it's supposed to be in the 30s.
Ouch. That seems
I love my husband.
Seems terrible. Pedigo of Chattanooga is where you need to go for fantastic e-bikes, and you know that they're locally owned and family owned, and they want to make sure that you have the proper service if anything goes wrong with those e-bikes. That's Pedigo of Chattanooga. Tell them Off the Hook Sports sent you if you want the best prices and also the best e-bikes on the market. If you buy one from some e-commerce website, you're not going to have service. You're probably not going to get what you would like. So Amanda LaFratta, how about a little message board bingo? This is an opportunity for our loyal listeners, and we greatly appreciate them to win one of two prizes. They can win a prize to Owl's Nest Barbecue, a barbecue supply pack, or you can also win about some chill pills or whatever you would like at crafttreats.com. That's pretty awesome. And the chill pills are fantastic for your pet if it has arthritis issues, anxiety issues, or maybe even digestive issues. The chill pills at Craft Treats are for you. And even if you don't win, you can use the Off the Hook, not Off the Hook Sports, Off the Hook promo code and get 20% off. So message board bingo, Amanda is now.
Who is the Mickey Mouse on the training staff that is terrified of cool weather? I watched multiple games across college football yesterday and last night where the weather was below 40. Only one team made it a big deal and had hot chocolate like they were Santa Claus and his merry little elves. Every other team was completely normal like they should be because 35 to 40 degrees without rain or high winds isn't that cold for sports. Considering we have done the hot chocolate and broth for multiple coaching staffs, this tells me it's a trainer that has been on multiple staffs making this decision.
Okay, I think I know this one. All right,
The
so
camera panned to it to show it. So if you were watching if you were watching it at all, you saw it.
okay, so who is this? Go ahead and you have 10 seconds and we can hook you up with a fantastic prize to Craft Treats or Owl's Nest Barbecue. I'm going to say Smoky Mountain Red said I'm clueless. I am too. I'm going to say that it was Missouri.
No.
Oh, because it did. No, I don't know. Walter State, Smoky Mountain Red said. I don't think that's it.
I don't think that's it either. It is LSU.
LSU.
Yeah, they panned to it and it said like broth, hot chocolate, like it was labeled.
One of the things that I took away from Chris Landry's conversation, by the way, is he didn't think Nick Saban would retire. And I thought the same thing. Did you see the way that he celebrated and was so happy after the Ole Miss game? I mean, that's not a ho-hum, let's get through the season. I thought he was genuinely happy for his guys. And here's a guy that, of course, loves winning championships, but I think he loves it too when his players who are outmatched by his standards this year, by his standards, I think he loves to see them have joy and have success. I think to him, that's part of the process, air quotes.
Yeah, well, we saw actually in that game, I think the first time this season, I saw Nick Saban cuss out his team on the sidelines. And then all of a sudden they get up and they do better and they win the game. So let's have some more of that, please.
What are your thoughts on Will Anderson? He's not a big sack guy, so you can't go to the stats and just say a bunch of sacks. But he's kind of had I don't know. I guess I thought he was going to take another step. In all reality, he could have left and gone and been the first pick in the NFL draft last year, but he had to play 3 years in college. So maybe I'm expecting too much. Maybe I expected him to make a major step when he was already on my Heisman ballot last year. But
yeah, thoughts? I mean, I think that people are prepared for him. They watch game tape for him to defend him. So I think that he is, I think he's not going to be able to do anything that teams aren't already prepared for as far as getting to the quarterback or whatever. And he's a freak of nature, but I think that people prepare for that now.
Well, and I'm sorry. Well, and Tennessee definitely schemed away from him. There was no question. Now, Darnell Wright is very good at right tackle, but they definitely schemed away from him. Let's try to give something away. Message board bingo is now.
We need to lose to UMass for the greater good.
Oh, I think I know who this is. And I'm not even going to look up schedule. No Googling. You see my hands. I'm holding them up. Okay, 10 seconds. But I don't know their schedule, so I'm not 100% sure.
I need to say it's a SEC team.
Okay, SEC team. Who's our guessers? Smoky Mountain Red says A&M. That's who I think it is.
That is exactly who it is. Smoky Mountain Red.
Yep. There you go, Smoky Mountain Red. You are our winner, and I'm going to put my email in here so you can contact me, and we will hook you up. No pun intended. So certainly appreciate that. And Amanda LaFratta, in the end, winners and losers from the weekend. As we look back over the weekend, I would say, and this Tennessee fans are going to like to hear this, but I would say Texas Christian beating Texas. That was a really hyped environment. You see Texas trying to do kind of the same thing that Tennessee's done, and that was Tennessee used to be a stale crowd, and now it's changed. I think Texas is trying to do the same with some of the light shows and all that, but Texas Christian able to win that game, so I would say they are the winner of the weekend. Loser of the weekend, I would probably have to point to Oregon. If you had any opportunity, you lost it to make the college football playoff. So I went first. I took the easy ones. Your winners and losers from the weekend.
My winner is going to be as bad as this. It's kind of a winner and loser. LSU. I mean, you barely beat, really sad Arkansas team without their starting quarterback. It's very clear you would have gotten completely destroyed if KJ Jefferson had played, but he's injured and did not. But you clinched the SEC West, so you won in that sense. My loser of the week is going to be Texas A&M, and really actually just Jimbo Fisher in general. Never has it ever happened. A number one recruiting class turns around and goes 3-6. 3-6.
Yeah, I don't understand that stat though, because any first year class isn't going to have a huge impact.
No, but I don't think you get.
But I didn't.
You don't get a number one recruiting class. You don't recruit at a level of number one and then turn around and go 3-6.
Typically not.
Like programs do not do that, because if you're recruiting at that high, if you're number one in recruiting, you're normally not going to be UCF, or you're not going to be, TCU. Those aren't going to be your number one recruiting classes. It's always going to be probably between an SEC school, Ohio State, Michigan, USC. Those are your typical top recruiting classes, Georgia, Alabama. So to go number one in recruiting and then turn around and go 3-6, pretty bad there, Jimbo.
Yep. She's Amanda LaFratta. I'm Dave Hooker. We'll visit with you tomorrow at 8:30 Eastern. Each and every weekday, look forward to that. And tomorrow on the program, we'll have a complete breakdown of Josh Heupel's press conference, and we'll have that on Off the Hook Sports later today and our YouTube channel. So hit that like, subscribe, and share button. Be sure and hit the like button and turn your notifications on, and we'll get that Josh Heupel press conference up ASAP. Have a fantastic day, everyone. She's Amanda LaFratta. I'm Dave Hooker. This has been a